So I know you were thinking it was going to be just as easy as 2.1, but unfortunately it's not. So what I mean by sometimes life isn't perfect is we get different sizes of things. And so when we have our fractions that have different sizes, we need to find, that's what I'm calling not so nice, because it's not as nice and easy as it was with 2.1 where we could just add our numerators or subtract. So here we actually need to find a common denominator in order to add and subtract. And the way I like to think about it is I'm getting a whole bunch of different size stuff, pizza, cupcakes, and I want to be able to have my portions to be the same size. So what would we do with these fractions? So maybe you've seen this before, and hopefully you have. So I have 1/4 and I need to add 2/3. So you can see we don't have the same denominator here. And again, hopefully you remember how to find a common denominator. Basically what we're going to do is rewrite these for two equivalent fractions. And that way they'll look like they have the same portion, or they will have the same portion then if we rewrite them. So here are the steps, and I'm going to have the steps on the other slides, but you only have to write this down once. The reason I'm going to have it is so we can just reference it. So the first thing I want to do is rewrite the fractions using the least common denominator, and that's also, remember, what we call the least common multiple. So a couple of things that you could do. Some of you probably can just see that it's 12. 4 times 3 is 12. And you could always list them out though, if you need to. Hopefully for some of these, you can just kind of see it. But we always need to have a backup plan. So 3, 6, 9, 12. And then we have 4, 8, 12. Oops, 12. Oh, so you can see that our common denominator is going to be 12. So what I need to do is rewrite the 1/4 to have a denominator of 12. I'm writing an equivalent fraction, and then I need 2/3 to have a common denominator of 12 as well. So I asked myself, how does a 4 get to a 12? Multiply by 3. And if I multiply the bottom by 3, I better multiply the top by 3. So I get 3/12. So these are equal. They just look different. Now 3 times what gives you 12? Yep, 3 times 4. So then 2 times 4 gives you 8. So a lot of people too, if you see it written horizontally and you want to write it vertically, you can always do that too. I tend to write it vertically, or sorry, horizontally. So I'm going to replace the 1/4 with 3/12. And then I'm going to replace the 2/3 with 8/12. Well, now I can add or subtract the numerator. So 3 plus 8 is going to give me 11. And then there's nothing that I can divide out, factor out from the top or the bottom. So I am done. So here's just a couple of additional examples. Again, we need to find our common denominator, and sometimes it just kind of stands out. Yeah, that's 8. So I don't need to do anything with this 5/8. It's already 8. But this 3/4 needs to turn into an equivalent fraction over 8. So you ask yourself, how does a 4 turn into an 8? I multiply by 2, multiply the top by 2. It's going to give me 6/8. So 5/8 plus 6/8. So again, my denominators are the same. And I add my numerators. So 5 plus 6 is 11. Now this is an improper fraction, so I want to rewrite that as a mixed number. Remember, a fraction is a division, so you don't have to make a decision. You take your numerator and divide by your denominator. So 11 divided by 8 goes in once, and then you're going to be left with 3 left over. So it's going to equal 1 3/8. So I have one whole pizza, and then I have 3/8 of another. And then let's take a look at this one, 6 and 4. And again, I'm finding my least common denominator. So I'm going to list it out. So 6, 12, 18, 24, and I'll just go ahead and put the 30 there. And then 4, 8, 12, 16, and 20. Don't even really need to go any further because look, I have it right here. So again, these fractions need to become equivalent fractions with a denominator of 12. So I'm going to go ahead and just rewrite that as 5, 6 needs to turn into a fraction over 12, and 3/4 needs to turn into a fraction over 12. So again, how does a 4 get to a 12? Multiply it by 3, multiply it by 3, gives me 9/12. And 6 times 2 and 5 times 2, 10. So again, now that my denominators are the same, and what I did here is I just rewrote 5, 6. I rewrote it with the equivalent fraction of 10/12 minus 9/12. So that's 10 minus 9, which is 1 over 12. And that's a proper fraction, so there's nothing I need to do there. So the other thing that I want you to remember is that I can rewrite 1 as a fraction. And so that's going to help you if you're trying to say, you know, a third of my day is spent sleeping. So it would be 1 minus 1/3. So 2/3 of my day would be working or cooking or driving. So just wanted to remind you that we can rewrite 1 as a fraction. And again, I call that your copycats or your magic 1. And I could have picked any examples here. So if I wanted 1 equals, 21 over 21. That's another copycat. We could go on forever, but I just kind of wanted you to remember that, and you'll use that with the mixed numbers. And that's it.